When I was a kid, I used to love watching Cartoon Network. In fact, before Disney Channel became part of my cable provider's package for the cable branch my grandparents had, it really was just Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon for my cartoon needs, besides the occasional TBS and the Saturday morning cartoons that Fox had. But Cartoon Network always had a special place in my heart, especially back in the early days, because back then they cared about their viewers. They cared what was on. And one of the shows that they cared the most about, because it's the one that I remember so fondly, is Dexter's Laboratory. But yeah, you know the drill here. I'm Andrew Rhodes, and welcome to Andrew Reviews, where today I'm taking a look at Dexter's Laboratory. So, for those of us that remember, Dexter's Laboratory was started in the 90s. And I mean like the late 90s, or mid to late 90s, I want to say. Because I remember being in elementary school and this airing on TV. And it was a really good show. Originally starting off as a one cartoon, then eventually branching off into its own series. The cartoon, I'm vaguely remembering the title and without having to look it up because I don't want to get into a whole bunch of weirdness looking it up that'll remind me of, oh, this show wasn't as good as I remember. No, it was fond memories that I have of it. And they're not rose-colored glasses memories either. They're fond memories I have of the show. The one episode was Dexter's Big Problem, where Dee Dee, at least I don't remember if that's the exact title of it, but basically the premise of the story was that Dee Dee grew to be extremely tall and Dexter had to try to stop her from rampaging the town. He tries to do this by using a giant robot, which it doesn't really work that well. He eventually saves the day and Dee Dee's returned to her normal size, and yeah, it's just a weird, sort of thing that happens. Yeah. But anyway, the series itself, though, is what I want to focus on the most today. And honestly, the series as a whole was really well done. I mean, more so than any cartoon that was on at the time. I mean, I remember Dexter's Lab had a contest on Cartoon Network at one point where you actually could have had the chance to win a laboratory in your room. Yes, I entered it. No, I didn't win. Though I would have loved to have won that, though, but I didn't win. Hell, I don't even remember if my mom actually mailed in the form or if it even got sent in the first place. Anyway, it still wasn't a bad thing, but still, it was a good show. It had very little continuity between episodes, with the exception of Mandark, the one character who knew that Dexter had his own secret laboratory, and when Mandark was in the episodes, we knew that there was continuity because the whole Mandark's, origin episode, when he first arrived and outshined Dexter. And Dexter tried his damnedest to defeat him, only to have to send over his ultimate weapon, Dee Dee. Yes, Dee Dee, his older sister. Oh, yeah, she's a dime and a half. But basically, she went over and started wrecking Mandark's lab after Dexter had to shut down his lab, and yep, everything was just so wonderfully solved by the end of the episode. Otherwise, like I said, the episodes really had no continuity between them. And that's the saddest part. This is an entire series that really didn't deserve an overarching story between episodes, but at the same time, would have been nice to have had something hint between each episode that contradicted or reflected the episode prior. Or at least a story 8 or so episodes prior, just to give a nice little nod back to continuity. But besides that, it was kind of fun. Now, each episode of Dexter's Laboratory consisted of 2 Dexter episodes and 1 filler episode. The filler episode being either Dial M for Monkey or The Justice Friends. Honestly, out of the 2, I loved The Justice Friends more. It was really fun. It was their take on basically the Marvel heroes. You had Major Glory, who was basically Captain America, Valhalla, who was basically Thor, and the Infraggable Krunk, who was your basic Hulk form at that point. And they all lived in a studio apartment, or crappy apartment, basically, I should say, where they basically were filming their own reality show. Think like Big Brother, but on a much lower budget. And that's what, the Justice Friends were. They were much better, though, than Dial M for Monkey. Basically put, one of the monkeys in Dexter's lab, yeah, Peter can get on his ass later, turns out to have superpowers, and Whenever the psychic link is made between him and the girl that kind of has a crush on him, not touching that either, when she goes, "Monkey, we need your help," he instantly transforms into Monkey, the superhero, basically donning a black and yellow suit with a giant M over his forehead. I'm not even joking, that was his literal suit. By having an aura of power around him, he could fly. I know he's got to be based on a Marvel character, and the only one I can think of that he would be based on is Nova. And that's stretching it at best. But honestly, dial in for Monkey versus the Justice Friends as the in the middle episode was sort of a no-brainer. I would have went for the Justice Friends in a heartbeat. Yeah. Well, at least the Justice Friends had some uniqueness to it, and I think they ended up getting their own show, but I don't remember 100%. Anyway, Dexter's Lab had its wide variety of cast and characters. Besides Dexter, Dee Dee, and Mandark, there was Dexter's dad and Dexter's mom. Yes, I'm just going to say it now because somebody's liable to say it in the comments if I don't. Yes, Dexter's mom was drawn a bit provocatively for younger children, having a very ample rear end. That was her entire thing. And Dexter's dad was apparently this horn dog type of guy towards her. I always thought of him like a reverse of the Cleavers from Leave It to Beaver, whereas the mom was more subversive in Leave It to Beaver, and this one she definitely had a more get the hell away from me type of vibe whenever Dexter's dad wanted something and she wasn't in the mood. Yeah, that's the vibe I got. Now, granted, a majority of the innuendos in the Dexter series, like some of the episodes where Dexter does something and it's sort of like an adult joke, went over my young mind, and it still did for a while until somebody online pointed it out. Like the episode when Dexter was looking for a new Dee Dee, and he actually hired a stripper or prostitute or escort to try to be Dee Dee, and he said he wanted her to prance around. She said that would cost extra. Or the episode when Dexter tried to make a, mom robot because their mom was sick and he was not about to try to do chores. Yeah, it wasn't going to happen. Either way, it's still one of those weird sort of, episodes, but it all fit well. Now, granted, I do have some favorites of this, and they will always be my favorites, but sadly they're near the end of the series, right when it was starting to get really good. The one is the musical episode, which I really like. It was one where Dexter is pretty much reliving his entire childhood up to his current point, explaining how he realized that he could create stuff and build stuff with Dee Dee just coming around and destroying everything in his path. In her path, and basically making his life a living hell if she got near him. It's one of those episodes that I like because it's a musical number mixed in with the actual episode, and it's an origin story, finally giving us some answers as to how he built his lab in the first place, and why she was the only one that knew about it for the longest time. Although, I do also enjoy that Omelette du Fromage episode, but mostly just for what happens at the end, because you had to realize that at some point that was going to happen. The other episode that I really enjoy the most is an entire show episode. It actually lasts the whole length of the standard Dexter episode. And I don't mean like one of the two halves. I mean the whole time slot that Dexter's Lab is supposed to be on for both of those segments. And it involved Dexter going over to Japan to be an exchange student, and an ancient monster basically rising up from the volcano and terrorizing the city. Everybody tries to stop this thing. I swear I saw the Justice Friends get their asses handed to them. I saw Monkey get his ass handed to him. The military force that's behind Monkey got their asses handed to them. And Dexter finally reveals his secret to his parents because he needs other people to help power this super robot that he created to help try to fight the monster. And honestly, it just still doesn't work. Although Monkey smashing in and giving it a massive power boost finally does the trick, and they destroy the monster at the end. And that's literally the whole episode. Still, it's good. I won't deny that. I liked it. In fact, it was one of my favorites. And I didn't get to see it completely the first time I watched it. I ended up having to wait for the reruns. That's why it's one of my favorites, because when the musical one plays, I know the next episode's going to be the one that I really like, so long as Cartoon Network went in sequential order. But, yeah. Now, are there some downsides to Dexter's Laboratory if you're not a fan of the classic cartoon like that? Well, yeah, some of the stories are a little on the bland side per episode. Some of them are just flat out crazy. Like the one when Dexter made Dee Dee into a copy of their mom just so that he could take her to a parent-teacher conference because he got an A-, I think it was, on a test instead of an A. That's really not something to give a rat's ass about. That's just showing you have some humility, you little bastard. Grow up. Otherwise, Dexter's Lab wasn't a bad show. All in all, just each of the stories was just confusing to keep track of, and there were so many of them. Dial M for Monkey stories were a little more fluid, but still just as crazy. Like the one when an organ grinder pretty much took control of him with his magical organ, or the one when he was part of this intergalactic wrestling, battle because some guy wanted to take over the Earth. Yeah. It was a weird show. But it was a good show, and at the time it was what Cartoon Network had to offer, and they did a damn good job not only marketing this, but showing it off for the rest of the world. So if you get a chance to pull up some old episodes of Dexter's Lab, or you can find it on YouTube, or God forbid if it ever comes out on DVD, that might be a good question to check out sometime. But anyway, if you ever get a chance to watch Dexter's Lab, I highly recommend checking it out. Definitely check out the full-length episode and the musical number, if anything. Most cases, you could probably pull up some of the episodes singled out on YouTube or online. You just really have to know where to look. But otherwise, it's not a bad channel. It's not a bad series, and I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of old-style Cartoon Network programming. Before they went to hell in a handbasket. Anyway, that's all the time I got this time for Andrew Reviews. Until next time, I'm Andrew Rhodes, and I'll see you later. Bye!